Hello everyone and welcome to Gallery Teachers Masterclass. I'm Fiona Dunlop and I'm going to be talking to you today about accessing professional development for busy teachers in challenging times. So by the end of the session today, this is what we will have achieved. We'll have looked at the importance of self-reflection in teaching and learning, looked at a reflective tool to highlight our development areas of interest, considered the importance of goal setting, identified a variety of accessible, cost-effective CPD opportunities, and provided pointers in implementing CPD into our busy lives. So that's what I hope to talk to you about today. And just to give you a little background here, I've worked in the same school for 20 years. But I actually started teaching in 1989 when I lived in Cairo. And back then, I really discovered that I had a passion for teaching and learning and the whole business of professional development. I do think when we come into this profession, we're dealing with people and we learn as much from our students as they learn from us. And I'm still here today, over 30 years later, to because I love learning. Basically, I'm very passionate about it, and so hopefully today some of the things that I want to share with you are things that have really worked for me. So the next 30 minutes is really about you, and how we can make this an exciting profession for you, that where you can start to move forward more and more within your career and really get a lot of enjoyment out of it. So professional development. Keith Harding, quite a long time ago now, in the Modern English Teacher, gave this definition of continuous professional development. And there are 4 points. So he says it's continuous. Professionals should always be looking for ways to deal with new challenges and improve performance. And by continuous, I don't mean every single minute that you're in the classroom, but within a week, within a month, you should not be sitting still, I think, is my belief in this. It's the responsibility of the individual teacher. Not every school will offer lots and lots of support, and you know yourself best. This is your profession and it's your life. So make this your responsibility and get the most out of it. It should be evaluative rather than descriptive, so that you understand the impact of the activity. And for me, very important here, and this is maybe what I'm basing the whole of the next half hour on, is it's an essential component of professional life. It's not an extra, it's not an add-on. And we do have busy lives as teachers. So we want to think about how we can integrate professional development into this busy life, rather than having it as an added extra that we never get round to doing. So why is this important? Well, I think there are a number of reasons why. First of all, interest, motivation. It really is good for us. It gives us a buzz. And it helps us to stay current in changing times. And these times at the moment, they're very changing. And so I do think it's important for us to keep up with our students. It gives us a feel-good factor. It gives us a focus as well. If we're just doing the same thing again and again as teachers, then we don't get that feel-good factor. But challenging ourselves, pushing ourselves and doing something a little new and giving ourselves a focus really gives us a buzz. I strongly believe that we owe it to our students and to ourselves. And then, possibly more importantly, depending on where you are in your career, the fact that you have shown progressive, continuous professional development in your CV and at interview and in your workplace can lead to possible employment prospects and career advancement. And with that, of course, can come financial gain, and who doesn't want that? And finally, as a professional body, if we are all embracing our own professional development for the good of ourselves, the good of our students, and the good of our organisations, this will only have a positive knock-on effect and enhance the reputation of our profession. And so these, I think, are ample reasons why we should be embracing and integrating professional development. But it's not only me who thinks this. The British Council also says CPD enriches teachers' professional lives, which in turn contributes to student learning and overall improvement in the quality of school systems. So I think that's reason there for us to really embrace this as something that we have integrated into our daily lives as teachers and as other academics within the industry. So what I would like to move on to then is to think about how we do this. And I think in order to look forward at how we're going to embrace our professional development, we need to look back and recognise our own achievements professionally and of course personally as well. And I would like you just to think for a second. I'm going to say, ponder over this. But think back about what you have achieved, what you have learned in the last extraordinary 12 months. And you've achieved a lot. We've all achieved a lot. This is something that I believe very strongly in, and I do this a lot in my year in work. I look back a lot and I think, what have I achieved? And in teaching and learning, and for me as an academic manager and then as a principal, I found that it was very important for me to leave work every day and look back on the day and recognise what I've achieved, because we do achieve a lot in our professional lives, and that can go unrecognised by ourselves and by others. We're always focusing on our students, so it's important here to look at ourselves. And then from that, what would you like to achieve? What would you like to learn in the coming year? And I would like you just to take that away with you after today and think about this, maybe even write it down. What have you achieved in the last year and what would you like to achieve this year? And I think that's very important because it does allow us to build on where we want to go. Being aware of our achievements allows us to structure our CPD pathway in a realistic and meaningful way. Because if we've broken down our achievements, we can equally break down our future development. And we do this by looking at smarter goals. And you may have heard of SMART goals. I'm going to look at smarter goals. And what is a smarter goal? Some of you may be familiar with this. I'll just put them up here. There, so smarter should be specific. A goal should be specific. Measurable, we need to be able to measure it. Time bound, very important. Don't just let it sit there. And the E here is the most important for me. It must be enjoyable. It must be your goal that you want to do. You want to achieve this. If not, you're not going to achieve it. And reflected upon. Take that time at the end to reflect and think, what have you learned through the process of trying to achieve your goal? And if it's not a smarter goal, or as much of a smarter goal as possible, it makes it more difficult to achieve. If you think about the beginning of a year, and we all make resolutions of how we're going to change, and how many of them do we stick to? We normally make resolutions that are not smart. I'm going to become a better person. I'm going to become a better teacher. I'm going to lose weight. I'm going to do more exercise. I'm going to learn another language. But without making these goals smart, it's very difficult to achieve them. And here's an example of a smarter goal. So I'm going to develop a bank of 5 to 10 interactive online classroom activities over the next 2 months by participating in one workshop or reading a CPD article once a fortnight and experimenting in the classroom. Now, it's a long goal, but this makes it smart. And as a result, you can see it's specific, it's measurable, 5 to 10 interactive. It's achievable. We're not saying that we're going to do this every week. It's the next 2 months. It's time bound. And so therefore it's realistic. Enjoyable, of course, is a personal thing, but this to me would be, as a teacher, would be enjoyable. And then reflect upon it. I'm going to reflect upon it by sharing my goal with colleagues in order to generate ideas. So I'm going to take the time to look back and think about how I prepare this and plan to present it to my colleagues. And this gives you the feel-good factor that we've done something, we've achieved something that is good for us, good for our careers, good for our students. So setting smarter goals is the way forward. But also I think it's important to think about mini goals. Mini goals, of course, can be smart, but we're achieving mini goals every single day of our lives. And in a lesson, you're achieving many mini goals. You're in a mini goal, you have your to-do list, your lesson plan of things that you're going to do. And if you achieve them, then you've achieved a mini goal. So for example, you decide on a lesson plan that you want to pay more attention to giving instructions. Make some notes on how you do this in your lesson plan and reflect upon whether you did it successfully or not. These are little mini goals, and we're doing that in every single lesson. So this all feeds into CPD, all feeds into professional development. Professional development does not need to be some huge big thing. It is integrated and broken down into very manageable chunks. So a takeaway task that I'm going to set you is that I would like to ask you to set one smarter goal that you would like to achieve in 2 months' time. Start writing it down. Write these things down. I think if you write it down and it gives you more reflection time and you think about what it is that you want to do. So set one smarter goal, or think of 3 mini goals that you would like to achieve by the end of the week. And I'm inviting you to post these goals on the workshop forum. Share them with other people. If you share something, then there's more chance that you will actually work towards doing them, in my opinion. So that's our mini goals and your homework, of course. But what I would now like to look at is a more holistic view of looking at ourselves. And I'm going to describe to you a tool that has worked for me over the years and really helped me focus and think about my own career, my own development, and the time that I give to things professionally and personally. So this is what I would like to share with you, a reflective tool. And what I would say is, if you take nothing else away from this session, try this. Try this. Start this and then build upon it. And this is what it is. On your computer or even on a piece of paper, why not? Put you at the center. There I am. Put you at the center. And then think of 5 or 6 elements that define you. Where do you put your energies in your daily work, in your daily life, in your weekly life? So I've put down here in red 3 of the main elements, 4 of the main elements of my work, and then also 2 of the things that feed into my life outside of work. So I've got my current role in school. I'm the principal of the school. My current team. So I've got a team of people that I work with. The day-to-day management, my long-term business projects, and my own professional development. And then outside of work, of course, I've got to think of my own well-being and my family and friends and the focus that they take in my life. Now, as I said, if you don't do anything else, do this today. So what I'm asking you is, before I continue to tell you about this task, I'm asking you, when you switch off from this workshop, add another 5 minutes before you go and make a coffee, before you go and talk to your friends, add another 5 minutes to start this, because it's the starting that is always the most difficult for us. So you find these different components in your life. And then what do? You think about what you give to each one and what it gives to you. And just to explain, if we take my current role, my team, so what do I give to that in my school? Well, as principal, obviously I give it lots of energy. I give my team lots of energy. I give my work lots of energy. And time, again, time. So I'm constantly dealing with people. I'm checking with my team how they're getting on, what tasks they're doing, etc. I'm giving guidance. I'm giving patience and understanding. Headspace, of course. This has taken a lot of my time. I'm still fairly new in my role. I've been in my school for 20 years, but I've been principal for about 2.5 years. So it's still taking a lot of time in my head. And then, of course, more time. Because as I say, it's a constant job where I'm learning all the time. Lots of new things pop up every single day. So that's a lot that I'm giving to that particular aspect of my job. But then you think, what do I get from it? What does it give back to me? And I get stimulation. It gives me a real buzz. I get a sense of pride working for my school. It gives me challenges that I need to work to try and solve. I get immense job satisfaction. And of course, also the social aspect of working with my colleagues, working with the students, etc. And so you can see there that's fairly balanced. I'm giving a lot, I'm getting a lot. You build this up for every component that you have on, let's call it a mind map here. And you start to see a holistic picture of what your life looks like and where your energy is going and what you're getting back. Is it rewarding? Are you giving too much? But you're not finished there. Because then what you start to do, and this is the exciting part, and I think because you've taken the time to write it or to put it on your laptop or your iPad or whatever, but you've taken the time to sit down and focus on this, it gives you more time to reflect in a deeper way. And this is not something that you can just do in one go. You cannot just do this in half an hour. You need to come back and revisit it. When I first did this, I did it in a big piece of paper and I kept it in the living room where I normally sit. And whenever I was getting ready to go to bed, whenever I was getting ready to leave the living room, I would just look at this and add in a little more and reflect and think about it. But then the next step is very important, is you start to move these energies around and think of the impact. So for example, a very simple example, if I take what am I giving to my current role? As I said, I'm giving it a lot of headspace. I'm taking it away with me. I'm thinking about things when I'm doing my journey back home. And that's because, as I said, it's still fairly new and I'm still learning a lot in my role. Let's imagine that I switch off a little more as I leave work. I maybe read a book, I draw a line and I stop thinking so much about what I've been doing in the day, what challenges I've had, etc. Can I give some of that headspace maybe to my own family and friends, my own well-being? And what impact does that have? So if I start thinking about my family and friends, have I paid enough attention to my brothers and sisters? Have I had enough conversations with my mum, etc., etc.? How does that feed into that? Feeds into my well-being. So you can see it's all interconnected, and just playing around with this and moving things around really identifies where you have space to integrate more into your professional life and where you need to move some things are maybe taking up too much of the energy. So if you do nothing else, as I said, after today's session, please do try this. I have found, and I know that many of my friends, many of my colleagues have tried this, and it really helps with a crossroads in your career, a crossroads in your life, decision making, identifying where you're maybe putting energies where you don't need to. It really can be life-changing. So I would say it's a must-do task. And how do we do it? Just to be clear again here. So you work alone without interruption, and be honest. Don't show it. It's not a pair work exercise. This is for you. It's your time. Put yourself in the middle. Add in the areas that make your life. Consider what you give to each and what it gives back. Consider the impact of moving them around and revisit. And I would be so interested to know, if you see me out at conferences, then come and tell me, how did you get on with this? How did you enjoy it? So I've thought so far about our achievements, our goals, and a holistic reflective task. But this allows you time to reflect and assess where you are professionally. This is why we do these things. It allows you to focus and prioritize. It allows you to consider when to say yes and when to push yourself. Say yes to things, embrace opportunities in your teaching profession, in your teaching career. But it also allows you to know when to say no. Don't take on too much. I am a big believer in less is more. So say yes to opportunities. Don't shy away from them. Don't be fearful of them, but know when you've got too much on and reassess how you manage those energies. So I would now like to focus a little on something concrete. What is actually there when I talk about professional development? What is open to you as teachers, possibly as managers as well? What is available? And I have a big list here of things that are available. Because very often with professional development, we think it can cost a lot of money. It's not something that I can access. It takes a lot of time. But as you can see, I've got a big list, and there are lots of things that we can do in small scale. It doesn't need to be something big, something costly. And this is possibly an area that you might like to talk about in the Q&A as well. So just to run through these quickly then. Local professional development groups, or idea sharing, idea swapping. And if there isn't one that you know of, then why not start one? It just means that you need you and one other person, two other people, to call it a group, and you start sharing your ideas. Set yourself a task, etc. And maybe start reading, bringing a topic to your group over a coffee. So start one. Don't be afraid to do that if there isn't one that you can access. In-house, so in your school, attend your CPD sessions. Keep them short, keep them sweet if you've got any say in the organisation of them. And then, of course, observation. What an amazing tool observation is. And of course, we're all used to observation being something that the director of studies of a school would do. But there are many other types of observation. You can self-observe. And you can self-observe on a small scale, maybe 10 minutes, or for a full lesson over a period of time. And by self-observation, I mean you can record yourself, you can record your students, you can put on a video, or you can just take your lesson plan it as if somebody is going to observe you, deliver as if someone's going to observe you, and then sit down for 10 minutes after with your lesson plan and really reflect on what went well and what you might change. Pop-in observations. Ask or arrange to go into a number of different classes, number of different courses, teachers with different styles, and just go in for 10 minutes and get a feel. And then again, sit down and reflect and make a note maybe of what you've learned, what you liked. Sometimes with pop-in observations, we also find comfort in the fact that we're all doing very similar things and that we're doing it right. Reflection. This is such an amazing tool at our fingertips that costs nothing. Keep a lesson journal or just write on your lesson plans. Make little notes, use post-its on your lesson plans, things that you would maybe do differently the next time. Reflect upon how a stage of your lesson is going. A lesson journal, again, keep it just for you, even if you're making notes on your phone, on your iPad, or in a physical book. write down areas that you want to work on, things that you've learned, areas that you see emerging as interests for you or areas that you want to develop in, and then do some more research. There's a lot of online support out there, blogs, conferences, publisher sites, exam sites, sometimes too many. So think about what it is that you want to look at. But I know, for example, many of the publishers, if you just Google them, go into their sites, you'll find a lot of information and ideas available for teachers. Experimental day once a week. Do something different, something out of your comfort zone. Write it into your lesson plan. Tell your students about it as well. Make Wednesday morning your experimental day when you're going to try something that you've read about in one of the journals. Find a mentor or a buddy. It could be in your school, it could be somebody online. I mean, the possibilities online now are amazing. You could have a mentor or a buddy in a different country, in a different continent, but still sharing your experiences, your thoughts, ways that you might want to develop your teaching styles. Take on some project work. Decide to do something if you're working in a school. Put yourself forward. This is also tied in possibly to volunteer to move out of your comfort zone. Put yourself forward to take on a new project. Maybe it's something to do with course design, researching something that would be useful for the school, sharing it with other teachers. But again, less is more. These are all quite exciting, but less is more. Volunteer to move out of your comfort zone in terms of the levels that you ask to teach. If you're not comfortable teaching advanced or proficiency, start to do some research, start to make some notes, do some observations, and then ask if you can start to teach on that course. Reading, what a gift. Doing podcasts as well. Keeping up with what's current. There's lots. I mean, joining Facebook groups, looking on LinkedIn as well. So keeping your social media profile up to date with what's happening out there. And of course, gallery teachers, the ELT workshop library and blogs are there at your fingertips and rich with really useful stuff for us all as developing teachers and developing managers. So hopefully that's given you quite a lot to think about so far. So what have I done? Just to reflect on what I've done already. Thinking about what appeals to you and how might you approach them. And I do believe very much in mini goals. So going back, thinking less is more. Which of these CPD opportunities appeal to you? But don't take too many on. Maybe choose 1, 2, 3 maximum. Tell somebody about it and make a start. Set some mini goals for yourself and start today. So far, I've given you a definition of CPD. I've thought about why develop, and you also may have other ideas about all of this. Start with how much you've achieved and congratulate yourself as well. We've looked at the importance of reflection and a holistic approach to ourselves. We've looked at setting goals, and we've thought about what is available and accessible to us at all stages in our teaching career. But that means really from day one, as a new teacher, there are so many things available to us, and it's about knowing what to choose and how much to take on. And that leads me into something that, again, I believe very strongly in, is giving this a structure. Mainly because the opening up the bank of opportunities and professional development to teachers of English language, there is so much out there. And so if we give it a structure, this will guide us through what we want to do. And something that I use the British Council framework. There are many different frameworks available. Again, publishers have some. I know the Equals have some frameworks to look at your own continuing professional development. I'm a fan of the British Council one. And if you go on to the link here, you find that there are different stages in the career of a teacher, and you can identify where you sit. So for example, if you're level 2, in the CPD framework as listed by British Council, then it will also give you some pointers as to where you might want to develop, what areas of development you might want to look at, and how. It also shows you signs that you're maybe ready to move into the next stage. Maybe you're getting a bit fed up, a bit bored, you're doing the same thing again. So it can lift you out of that. So if you've got time, do have a look at this. There are a lot of different ideas available out there to you. And so just to finish off, I'm just going to summarise now some hints on how to access and implement CPD into our working lives. So build an online network. And of course, Gallery Teachers is there at your fingertips. But be selective. There's a lot of variety, a lot of things available, and it can be very overwhelming sometimes. Identify what you're interested in, what will be useful for your students, and what will move you forward. And you can do this by, again, recognising the achievements, doing some self-observation, talking to your students to find out where you want to focus on. And build it into what you already do. Don't treat it as a separate thing. Give it structure. Integrate it. Enjoy it. Set yourself a goal and tell people. Now, not everyone agrees with this, but I personally, if I've got a goal that I do really want to achieve, I find it much easier to tell people, and then I will see it through. Be realistic, but don't sit still. Sitting still is when we become stale, and really it's such a wonderful profession to be in that there are so many opportunities. Keep yourself moving and learning, and more opportunities will grow for you. But less is more. Choose a couple of areas and really focus on them. Provide time for reflection and recognise your achievements. And praise yourself. I would say those 3 points we just don't do enough of. Giving yourself time, recognising your achievements, and praising yourself for them. Work with someone can often make it much more enjoyable, opens up different ideas, different creativity. And lead by example, lead by your own example. Set yourself little goals and congratulate yourselves. And that all feeds into this buzz, this feel-good factor by self-motivating. And choosing activities that are interesting for you. And finally, enroll in a short online course, become a student. Remember what it's like to be on the other side. And again, that really gives you a new energy to professional development. So a few hints there, but I'm more than happy to pick up on these at the question and answer stage as well. And just to wrap up, this has been all about you, all about us, all about our own professional development. But we are in the profession of learning and development. And all of this can transfer to the classroom, and it does transfer to the classroom in what we do. So you can lift all of this that I've said now into classroom activities. Goal setting, individual learning outcomes we're very familiar with. Bringing in reflection, reviewing, what have you learned, what has been useful for you, looking at tutorial tasks, reviewing slots, reflective learning journals. We have these for our learners, introduce them to our lives as now. And all of this will create autonomous lifelong learners in our students, but also, of course, in ourselves. And I would now suggest that you go to Gallery Teachers and check out the website, where there is so much more to help you in your continuing professional development. Well, professional development for English teachers is important for many reasons, but apart from anything else, it keeps us interested. We owe it to our students, and it will also help enhance our career whilst keeping it enjoyable and keeping us interested. I think there are so many opportunities for us to really learn, and we are in the industry, in the profession of learning and developing. So I think it's very important for us. And what I would say is, think of the opposite. We don't want to become stale. We don't want to do the same thing day in, day out. That just leads to boredom and resentment. And we really want to enjoy, surely, our lives, our professional lives. So I think for that reason, it's very important. I love the profession of ELT, and I love the challenges and opportunities that it has given me over the years. And I reflect a lot on what I achieve each year and what more I'm capable of. And I believe it keeps me energized, and in turn, I hope it helps my organisation, my students, and the people that I work with. So I think there are so many reasons why this is important for us. So the strategies for continuing professional development for new teachers and also for experienced teachers, I think are very similar, to be honest. But it's about knowing what's appropriate and what's doable at the level that you are at in your teaching career. There is a lot out there that's available to us at all levels, new and experienced teachers with professional development. And it can become overwhelming, particularly for a new teacher, to know how you go about working on your own professional development and what to focus on, what to select. During the workshop, I'll refer to the British Council framework. There are many different frameworks and ways to structure this, but these are useful tools in identifying what stage you're at in your career and what you might want to focus on in your professional development. And I'm very much a fan of less is more, doing something well and knowing how to select what is relevant for you in your circumstances. I also strongly believe that you need to enjoy what you're doing, no matter what stage of your career. So it's about knowing how to select and selecting enough to keep you challenged and developing, but not taking on too much that you will not see it through. So thinking about the strategies for professional development and whether they've changed in recent years, I think there's possibly a lot more awareness of the benefits of taking ownership of our own CPD. I believe that it's more teacher-led now than before, rather than being imposed upon us by the organisation that we work for. There are a lot of tools out there for us, a lot of frameworks available from various publishers, organisations, British Council, organisations such as Equals, for example, as well. So I think there's a lot for us to select from, and for us to know as teachers what we want from our own professional development. I think that's maybe changing and has changed in recent years. Something else that I think has changed possibly is measuring the impact of what we do and implementing it into our everyday teaching. We're looking more and more at the evidence. How is this helping the learner? We're getting more used to gathering evidence. And I think as well, CPD at the moment is more accessible to all. It's not just about paying to go to large conferences, but we're more aware of how to break it down and integrate it into our daily lives. And of course, finally, there are many more options online, more training online, more teaching tools, more communities online than ever before. And that's such a gift for us.